Hi everyone and welcome to LSBF TV. My name is Rajwana Udin and I'm going to be doing the assessment tasks for Level 3 Advanced Bookkeeping. You may remember me from last session where I did one of the tasks relating to the build-up of a non-current assets register. It's all about gaining the confidence that you need to be successful in the exam. We need to show the examiner that we have gained as much knowledge as possible and show this skill in the exam questions. We have gained the knowledge and now we need to apply it to real exam assessments. Here at LSBF TV, we have created AAT videos for levels 2, 3 and 4. These videos include the tuition videos as well as assessment tasks. These assessment tasks are going to be pinpointing particular details that you could be dealing with in the real exam. So come with me and we're going to be attempting this task, which is again about non-current assets and their registers. Okay, so this task is about non-current assets and you are working on the accounting record of a business known as AVBK trading. You may ignore VAT in this task, and the following is an extract from a purchase invoice received by AVBK Trading relating to new equipment for its company, and it's also relating to its kitchen. Now you would have seen this previously. This is item purchased, the steam oven, the colour touch control display for that electrical oven. We've got the floor stand needed for the oven, and then we've got the pasta boiler, and then we've got the net total. So we started by dealing with any depreciation expenses and any purchases relating to any non-current assets to be shown on the actual register. The acquisition here has been made under a finance lease. On the next page, we have certain descriptions as well, and this is what we're going to be concentrating on. It says, the following information relates to the sale of some computer equipment. Sale of computer equipment. If you are selling a non-current asset, the proper term for this will be disposals. So this will be DISPOSAL, disposals. Now, according to the examiner's reports, they love talking about the issue of disposals and how it can be shown as an actual item on the non-current assets register, and as well as you could be tested on the journal entries required to place it into the PPE accounts, the disposals accounts, and any accumulated depreciation ledger accounts. We need to show the examiner that we are confident on such calculations and the more important double entry bookkeeping. But for this particular task, it's all about how to deal with depreciation and any necessary dates, as well as thinking about the issue of capital expenditure. Capitalisation is going to incur if you spend money buying non-current assets or enhancing non-current assets. But this question here is stating very clearly that AVBK has a policy of capitalising expenditure over £500. Which means if you spend more than £500, you can recognise that as an asset on the statement of financial position. But anything below £500 will be classed as a revenue expense, and these will be taken to the statement of profit or loss. Now, we have understood from last time's session that the steam oven collectively made a total of greater than £500, and therefore we recognised the adjustments for depreciation, the dates, the description, i.e. the name or the product code relating to that non-current asset, and we have tried to gain as many marks as possible. But the task here is also dealing with depreciation, and you can see very clearly it says that the kitchen equipment is depreciated at 20% per year on a diminishing balance basis. Diminishing balance basis is also known as the reducing balance method, and this is going to be relating to the net book value of the asset at each year start or the carrying amount of the asset. Sometimes the examiner can use carrying value. You're also told here that computer equipment is depreciated over 4 years on a straight line basis, assuming no residual value. Straight line based depreciation is going to be considering the cost of an asset. And the examiner's report has clearly stated that many students sometimes forget to consider residual value entirely, and they lose such precious mark because they're under exam pressure and also feeling anxious trying to complete the paper. Try not to be scared. Don't let that fear consume you. Try to calmly and collectively do what you can. You as a student know what your strengths and weaknesses are, and therefore you can do what you know best. Attempt the easier questions first and then come back to do the little bit more challenging ones, and then we can show the examiner that we deserve the AAT qualification. So, moving on, it says depreciation is calculated on an annual basis and charged in equal instalments for each full month an asset is owned in the year. Okay, so we have, let me just scroll down. Let me just zoom out a little bit so you can see the information as a whole. There you go. It says, for the year ended 31st of March 17, record the following in the extract from the non-current assets register below. We have the instructions stated very clearly that we are to record any acquisitions of non-current assets, any disposals of non-current assets, and any depreciation charges. Now, in the previous session, you would have remembered that we've done the acquisition of non-current assets and the relevant depreciation expenses for the period. We now need to deal with the disposal of non-current assets. But the examiner has also provided us with clear instructions to make sure we avoid doing such things and waste unnecessary time. We have, note, not every sale will require an entry. Show your numerical answers to 2 decimal places. They have mentioned the word 2 in capital letters, so if you round it to 1 decimal place or the nearest whole number, you are not going to be gaining full marks here. And then it says to use the DDMMYY formats for any dates. So always follow the instructions and the examiner can identify that you have understood what it is needed from you. To gain marks, you can only gain it by answering the question. If you don't answer the question set, then how are you going to prove to the examiner that you deserve a pass for this particular paper? The knowledge that you should have gained from level 2 bookkeeping controls and bookkeeping transactions should be the knowledge that you apply here. Okay, so on the next page, we have further instructions. In the empty description or serial number, please fill in with either the desktop DTC3, the freezer DDF4, the electric oven CS031, the pasta boiler PSB89. In the corresponding empty funding method, please fill in either cash, finance lease or hire purchase. Now we have attempted this in the previous session. And now what we're going to do is deal with the disposal of the desktop. Going back to the previous page, you can see the following information relates to the sale of some computer equipment. So you have done a disposal. The item description is desktop DTC3. The date of sale is the 31st of December 16 and the selling price is £180. The selling price in this situation is going to be called the sales proceeds. And the sales proceeds is the amount of money that you have raised from selling this asset to your customer. In your accounting studies for level 3 advanced bookkeeping, you should also think about have we made a gain on disposal or a loss on disposal. Now the videos here that we have made in LSBF will be talking about the double entries needed as well as the entries relating to the non-current assets register. Fortunately for us, we don't need to do any double entries. That will be another session's issue. Today we need to fill in this non-current assets register as carefully as possible. So we've got the desktop DTC3, the acquisition date was on the 1st of January 15 and the cost was £579.84. The funding method in this situation was by cash. For the year ended 31st of March 15, we have depreciation charges of £36.24. You can see in this situation that we don't have to calculate the depreciation, nor do we care how it was calculated. Let's assume that this was correctly accounted for by the examiner themselves. The carrying amount at the end of each year is going to be the cost minus any accumulated depreciation. So for the year ended 31st of March 16, the depreciation charge was £144.96, giving us a carrying amount of £398.64. Now we need to deal with the transactions relating to the year ended March 17. This is the desktop DTC3. Let me highlight it for you. The desktop DTC3. So you should not be confusing this section by dealing with the transactions relating to the freezer, the electric oven or the pasta boiler. Try to make sure that you stick into a section and attempt it a little bit at a time. If you do everything at once, the information in the scenario will try to overwhelm you and then you're going to be not performing your best. If you do a little bit at a time, just like we're doing here at LSBF TV, over the next 10 weeks we're going to be attempting some questions on the assessment task. And you can attempt these yourself by going onto the AAT website and opening up the sample assessments. This is going to be set as a CBE exam. So some boxes will be blank and other boxes will require you to enter your answer. So the question here wants to include the depreciation charge for the period, the disposal proceeds and the disposal date, because that is the information relating to the desktop. For the other assets, for example the pasta boiler or the electric oven, you have purchased them in this accounting period, so you would be including the acquisition date, the cost and any necessary depreciation charges. For this situation here, I need to first of all calculate what the depreciation charge is going to be. The depreciation charge for the desktop, i.e. computer equipment, the information is given to us on the previous page. So allow me to scroll up to help you remember what the depreciation policy is going to be. It says computer equipment is depreciated over 4 years on a straight line, assuming no residual value. A residual value is also known as a scrap value, the amount at which you can sell the asset for once its useful life has been lapsed. In this situation, we've got a useful life of 4 years, but the computer equipment was sold on the 31st of December 2016. The asset was disposed of part way through the current year, and the question here for the next bullet point says that depreciation is calculated on an annual basis, charged in equal instalments for each full month an asset is owned in the year. So if your year ends on the 31st of March each year, your years start on the 1st of April. So for the year ended March 2017, you've owned the asset for April 16, May 16, June 16, July 16, August 16, September 16, October 16, November 16 and December 16. So you have owned the asset for a full 9 months before you've disposed of it. So you can only apply 9 months worth of depreciation. Now that we're doing a straight line depreciation basis, you should know from your studies that straight line is based on the asset's cost. whereas reducing balance basis is based on the asset's net book value at each year's start. So, if we have the cost of the desktop, let me just remind myself of what that is. There we go. The cost is a beautiful 579.84. We're going to be depreciating that over 4 years. So the depreciation is going to be I forgot already, 579.84 divided by 4 years. That is going to give us 1 year's worth of depreciation. Now we haven't had the asset for a full 1 year, so we need to prorata it for the number of months that we've owned it for. We have owned it for 9 months for the year ended March 2017. So you will multiply it by the fraction 9 over 12. Why do we do 9 over 12? If you do 479.84 divided by 4, that will give you 1 year's worth of depreciation. Now if you divide that by 12, that's going to give you 1 month's worth of depreciation. And if you want 9 months of depreciation, you just multiply the end result by 9. So that's the equivalent of doing 9 over 12. So if I carefully type this on the calculator, because I don't want to get anything wrong, 579.84 divided by 4 times 9 over 12. This is going to give me a depreciation charge of £108.72. Allow me to type that here. 108.72. Such calculations you could be doing on a scrap piece of paper. The examiner will not see your workings, they just would see the end result. So please make sure that the calculation is 100% perfect, because any other difference, let's say I put 200, they would have no idea where that 200 comes from, and therefore I wouldn't be awarded with the marks I deserve. So the 108.72, that's going to be the depreciation charge for the period. I type in here 108.72. Remember that this asset has been disposed of. It no longer exists according to this entity. So the carrying amount at the end of the period is going to be 0. It no longer exists. The disposal proceeds is the amount of money that you've sold the asset for. And let's just scroll up to help us remember. There we go. It says that the disposal proceeds or the sales proceeds is £180. That is how much you sold the asset for. £180. So disposal proceeds, £180. Now don't forget that we need to enter our answers in 2 decimal places. So the carrying amount, then I'm going to change that and include it as 0.00, just to make sure that I'm following the examiner's instructions. Now finally, we need to include the disposal date. If I scroll back up to help me remember, the disposal date was the 31st of December 2016, and we need to enter the date, month, year format. So the 31st of December 2016 is going to be 31/12/16. There you have it, guys. That is the entry of the non-current assets register for the disposal of the desktop, or in other words, the computer equipment. The examiner has reported in the reports that a lot of students have incorrectly shown the carrying amount of a disposed asset. We need to ensure that we're also calculating the relevant depreciation. The question clearly says that computer equipment is going to be straight line depreciated. Do not confuse that with the diminishing balance method. We could also be asked using the funding method of a purchase of any assets. Now this reminded me that we had a go at this last session, but again, the calculation of depreciation is essential. The knowledge that we have gained here is to understand why the non-current assets register is kept. Why not go through your study notes and understand why and the importance of this register is going to be useful in the accounting system. We're recording the names of the assets, the acquisition date, the depreciation charges for each period, the funding method, and any disposal information. Why do you think such registers are kept? It's all about ensuring the safeguarding of assets is implemented. We need to ensure that we understand where things were purchased from, so if anything goes wrong, we have a record and the plan or any backup information is kept. The examiner will not test you exactly the definition of a non-current asset, but they will be testing you like this on how to implement figures in the register. So the depreciation skill here, ladies and gentlemen, is of utmost importance. Now, the assets register also allows us to verify items of when discrepancies occur. And including in this task is a couple of theory questions that you could be dealing with. Can I zoom in so you can read the information a little bit more clearer? There we go. These items are going to be tested for 3 marks. It says, Part B, complete the following sentences by ticking the correct answers. It is important to obtain prior authority for capital expenditure in order to what? A, to achieve the appropriate level of materiality. B, to comply with international financial reporting standards. Or C, to ensure that the business as a whole will benefit from the purchases. Capital expenditure is all about spending money buying non-current assets or enhancing the assets. And an asset is a resource controlled by the entity as a result of past events from which economic benefits are going to flow into the entity. So it's all about benefits flowing in as a result of this purchase, so the answer is going to be C here. The next item we have is the bank manager. The bank manager would be the appropriate person to give this authority, or the bank manager would not be the appropriate person. Well, the bank manager really has nothing to do with deciding which amounts that you're going to be spending on your capital expenses or which assets will gain you the most economic benefits. The bank manager in this situation would not be the appropriate person to give this authority. So there you have these questions answered for 3 marks. Very nice, very easy. So you can see in these situations that questions can be calculation orientated or even some theory sentences. Make sure that you understand the definitions of materiality, financial reporting standards, and the authoritative figures. Our videos created by LSBF will include things for pinpointing on definitions, the calculations in the tuition videos, but then we also have a separate assessment task where you can do such calculations. These assessment tasks are there for you to practice in order for you to gain the confidence that you need to be successful. According to the examiner's report, a lot of students did attempt this question correctly and their strength was very, very good in this situation. The students that got such questions wrong, I think, will be the issue relating to depreciation. So please go back to your study material, make sure you understand the difference between straight line depreciation and reducing balance method. The next time we see each other, we're going to be dealing with the double entry for when an asset is disposed of. In order for you to be prepared for next week's video, why not review the double entries relating to the disposals account, accumulated depreciation, and the actual asset cost account. we need to understand the calculation of depreciations and how the disposal will be fitting into the accounting system. I thank you very much for joining me in today's session. I really hope it was educational, fun, and you will take it away to apply in your own question practice. If you get stuck, you're more than welcome to mail your tutor. Myself, I am a tutor here at LSBF, and we create mock exams and questions for students to attempt. And any questions that we get for review, we also provide critical, constructive criticism. And this allows the students to identify where their strengths and their weaknesses are. Again, thank you very much for joining me. I'll see you next time, and everyone here at LSBF TV wishes you the best of luck with your studies. Goodbye and have a fabulous weekend.